All right, so I decided that I was going to make some brunch. I wanted some breakfast, but it's lunchtime. And so I figured since I had some leftovers, I would just make some gravy and cook some rice. So I made some homemade biscuits yesterday, and I also have some leftover sauces. So all we're going to do is we're going to cook the rice, and I'm going to cook some gravy for the rice as well as the biscuits. So as you see here, this is my rice. You can use any kind of rice you want. I'm using Success rice because this is what I had. This was given to me, so I'm using what I already have. What I'm going to do is I'm going to wash this several times before I actually cook it. I actually have a pot. I have my cast iron Dutch oven uh, with water inside coming to a boil so I can add my rice. But first we need to wash the rice. You need to do this about 3 to 5 times and get all the starch out of the rice. Okay. You don't cook rice or pasta without getting starch out of it. Okay. Rule of thumb. And then we have our cast iron skillet here. This is what I'm going to cook my gravy in, and this is what I'm using for my gravy. We're using butter, cornstarch. If you don't have cornstarch, you can use flour. It basically serves the same purpose. Some milk, and then seasonings. This is chicken bouillon. We have some complete seasoning, and then we have some cayenne pepper to give it a little spice, a little kick. Give it a little bit of heat to it. So we're gonna go ahead and wash the rice out a few times. And then you just kind of want to wiggle it around and letting the starch come out, and then pour the starchy water out. All right, so I washed my rice out 5 times. I just poured water in here, shook it around, took the bag out. All the starchy water started to come out. So I'm going to add more water to this. Give me just a moment. I actually took the lid off my cast iron Dutch oven. I'm going to add some water to this. And then we're going to pour this into the cast iron Dutch oven where the water's already came to a boil. And then we're going to cover it. The Success rice tells you not to cover it, but we're going to cover it because I want fluffy rice. I don't want no hard, half-hard rice. And if you want fluffy rice, you have to cover your rice, okay? You don't just cook it with no top on it if you want soft, fluffy rice. And in my opinion, that's the best way to cook rice. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to add this to our Dutch oven. Just like that. And we're going to cover this and we're going to let this cook for about 10 minutes. All right, so while the rice is cooking, we're going to start our gravy. We're going to use at least about a half a stick of butter in the cast iron skillet. So we're going to open this and add it. And you want to cook this kind of like on a low to medium heat. You don't want to burn it, so that you don't want to cook this too high. So I'm gonna go ahead and open this and add to the cast iron skillet. All right, so I have my butter in the cast iron skillet. I just turned the stove on. I have it on a low heat right now, but we're gonna bring this up to temp a little bit higher. Just a little bit, not that much. We don't want to cook this. We don't want a high heat because we're gonna put milk in here, and I don't want the milk to scorch and burn. So we're gonna turn this up just a tad bit, not too much, because remember we're gonna add milk. So I'm making what people call a country gravy, but I'm gonna make mine dark. And actually I forgot to include the ingredient that I'm going to use to make it dark, which I'm not going to use that much of. And this is it right here, some A1 steak sauce. Okay, you just need a drop or two of it to help with coloring in terms of making it dark, and plus it's going to add more flavor to it. So you don't need that much because we're going to add seasoning, but I just want my gravy. I like a darker gravy. That's just me. That's just a preference of mine. You don't have to do it, but if you just want a basic white gravy, you'll need to make a roux, which I'm getting ready to do, which is butter or either oil, and then your choice of either flour or cornstarch to make a roux. And then from there, you'll need milk, and then add your seasoning and cook it. Taste it, obviously, to your preference or to your liking. So we're gonna move this around a little bit more. As you see, the butter is starting to melt. We don't want to cook it any higher than this, because remember, we have to put the cornstarch in here. We don't want the cornstarch to burn. We definitely don't want the milk to burn either, okay? All right, our butter is melted, so I'm gonna go in with the cornstarch. You can use flour. Either way, it doesn't matter. That's about a couple of teaspoons of flour, and then we're just gonna mix this, cornstarch. We're gonna mix this in to the butter so that we make what's called a roux, okay? And you wanna get that raw cornstarch taste out. This is your thickening agent, okay? I'm gonna add just a little bit more. All right. This is your thickening agent. Like I said, you can use flour. If you don't have cornstarch, if you prefer flour, I prefer cornstarch because, in my opinion, it cooks better. It's more of a smooth consistency when you're making a roux, and you don't have to worry about getting a whole lot of lumps out like you do with flour. So I actually like cooking with cornstarch when I'm making a gravy, okay? Now I'm gonna turn my fire down just a bit because we're just about ready to add our milk, and I don't want the milk to burn. Okay, I don't want the milk to scorch. You want to cook your roux at least about a minute or two. It's going to darken a little bit, but it's okay. It's my timer for my rice. Hold on just a moment. All right, so my rice has been cooking for about 11 minutes now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pour the water out. We're going to put the rice back in the pot and put the lid on it so the rice keeps cooking in terms of steam, and this is what's going to make the rice fluffy and soft the way I like it. All right, so we poured all the water out of the rice. We're going to put the lid back on so that the rice steams, and we're just going to let the rice sit for about 5 to 10 minutes. The rice is going to continue to steam, which is going to make the rice soft. And the rice is pretty much ready at that point. So let me finish working on my gravy. All right, so I've been actually simmering my roux for a few minutes. You don't have to do it that long. You just want to make sure you get the raw taste out of the cornstarch. If you're using flour, you want to cook the raw taste out of the flour and then make sure it's no lumps. This is why I like cooking with cornstarch, because you don't have to worry about lumps with the cornstarch as you would with the flour, okay? So now I'm just gonna let that come to a simmer. Once it comes to a simmer, you'll see it'll start to bubble, and then we'll stir it one more time. Actually, you see it's kind of starting to do it right now. Hold on, let me turn this on. See that? I'm gonna let it bubble quite a bit more, then we'll stir it, and then it will be time to add in the milk. You see how our roux is starting to darken? You want a golden, kind of a golden brown color. You don't want it too dark, but you do want it to kind of darken a little bit. So it's like a golden color. And then it's pretty much ready at this point. We're gonna slowly add in some milk, but you wanna be careful because this is warm. See that? This is already making a dark gravy. I'm going to cut my fire down. See that? We're going to add just a little bit more. And then we're just going to stir this. You want this on a low heat at this point. And then you can add your seasonings to this, okay? But you want to make sure you stir this really, really well. You want the gravy to simmer. You don't want to cook on a high heat, okay? And you want to keep moving this around, so let me actually get my seasonings. Alright, we're going to go in with our chicken bouillon. About a teaspoon of that. And then stir it. The chicken bouillon, in my opinion, is the best thing to put in the gravy. It gives so much flavor. So much flavor. Gonna stir it around. And then we're gonna add our complete seasoning and our cayenne pepper. Alright, so we've added in our cayenne pepper. We also added in our Badia complete seasoning. And the chicken bouillon you saw me start off with is for seasoning. We're going to turn the fire up just a tad bit. I'm going to put, it's on 2 right now. I'm going to put it on 3. And then I'm going to put a drop or 2 of this in here. And it's going to darken the gravy. And it's going to give the gravy a little bit more flavor too. Actually, that was a little bit more than what I wanted, but it's okay. It is alright. It's going to give the gravy more flavor. And it's going to kind of darken a little bit. You don't want too much of it though, because you don't want the A1 sauce to take over the gravy. I mean, you want it to be a little bit more flavorful, but you don't want it to totally take over everything else you've already put in the gravy. Okay, so I'm going to, you want to stir this around. As you can see, it's thickening a little bit, which is what we want. And when rule of thumb, when you take the gravy off of the stove and let it cool, the gravy is going to thicken even more. It smells good already. So my rice, I've let steam. It's going on 12 minutes now. So it's pretty much done. Right, so the rice is done. I've let it steam for almost 15 minutes with the top on. And then as you see here, the gravy is done. And you see how thick that gravy is? It's ready. It is ready. And I've turned my fire off. If you want to thin this out, all you have to do is add just a little bit more milk. Or if you want to add a little bit more water to it, you can. But the gravy is done. From this point on, it's going to start to cool off and it's going to thicken even more, especially when you take it off the stove. So I'm going to heat up my probably a biscuit or two biscuits, and then some sauces to go with my rice and gravy. And I'm also going to use the gravy on top of the biscuits too. Alright guys, there is my breakfast, or basically brunch since it's lunchtime. Let me share with you guys this beautiful gravy I made. Look at this. Came out perfect. See how thick it is? Since I've taken it off the heat, it's been off the heat for about 10 minutes at least. Okay? As I said before, it is going to thicken when you take it off the heat. And as you see, it's a lot thicker than it was when I was cooking it. All right. So we're gonna pour this gravy onto our food. Watch this. Yes. That's exactly what we want. Mm, mm, mm. Well, I thank you all for taking the time to learn this recipe for gravy, homemade gravy, and I hope you give it a try. Let me know what you think if you do try this out. And it's time to sit down and eat. Look how fluffy this rice is. Wow. This is the best gravy I've ever made. Mm. The biscuits are so soft, and with this gravy, you can eat it with a fork. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you for watching. You guys have a great day. I'm gonna finish my meal here.